Welcome back to another Pokemon TCG tabletop video. In today's video, I'm going to be playing Gardevoir, Henry Chow's list from the Pittsburgh Regionals after losing to so many of them in day two. I figured I had to get my hands on the deck, get some free wins against some Dragapult players at my local league. And today we're actually playing a league challenge. I still don't have my league challenge finishes, so I'm going to be looking to hopefully win this league challenge. No changes to the list looking forward into the next format. Of course, this is a league challenge, so we aren't able to play with the new cards, even though Kanzen does allow the new cards a little bit early. Typically, they obviously can't do that for the challenge. So we're just playing the old format list, but in the new format, I think I'm just going to take out two of the researches for two lilies and then switch all the Ralts and Curlias and keep it the same. And this might be the deck I end up playing at the Milwaukee Regional Championships because it is just very well positioned in the meta, even though doesn't really have much of a draw engine. But on my turn one here, I have the raw secret box. Going to be pretty good for me here. You'll notice I discarded the Jellicent. I don't value that card very highly against Dragapult, which is what I'm up against in this first round. I think for the most part, you just want to be spam attacking with Frillish, not allowing them the opportunity to play a boss's orders and get item cards. Once I break the item lock and kill the Badoo, I could decide to make Jellicent later on in the game, but I'm definitely not going to be looking to make it early on, so I can always just get a Night Stretcher to recover it later on in the game. Again, as it is a challenge, we are actually prize checking. Don't want to get in trouble with the Pokemon Company for breaking the rules at their official events, so we're going to have to endure a little bit of prize checking here as my opponent Adam opens up with a Hilda, which can't be the optimal turn one supporter for him. I am pretty happy to see this. Although, if he does have a lot of basics in his hand, like a bunch of Dreepies, Duskulls, etc., I feel like this Hilda could be completely fine, but we see he's only got one Dreepy, not a particularly strong start for him. And I was sitting on the Dark Energy and a Professor's Research from last turn, so I go ahead, knock out the Badoo, play Research, get a new hand, and we're just going to put the pressure on Adam. He's got a Dracloak, but not a whole lot else. I think he's got an Iono here. Not a whole lot for him. This Cloak is in danger. He can't play item cards, so he can't search out another Badoo. He can't search out more Dreepies. And this was definitely my experience as a Dragapult player at the Pittsburgh Regionals. Specifically, my game against Henry Chow looked a lot like this, I will say. And I think Adam here, he's got Halucha in hand, and he's just debating whether or not it's worth putting it down or not. Now, onto my turn, I Nestball for Ralts here. I think this was actually a mistake because I have Night Stretcher for Jellicent in hand. And so if I Nestballed for Clefairy there, I can actually research into any energy card and then kill the Dracloak with Jellicent with the weakness without needing to find a Gardevoir. And now I'm slowing down because I realized I just made a mistake. I just wasn't thinking there. Sometimes when your position's really good, it's really easy to just, I don't know, stop thinking because you think the game's already over. And I end up not getting punished here as I'm just going to go ahead and research. Not sure if I shuffled my deck there from the Nestball, but I just go ahead and shuffle again just in case. And then, like I said, I research into the Clefairy and the energy card to just donk Adam's Dracloak. And we have a pretty uneventful round one. And we'll just get right into our second round here. As we get into the second round here, and I'm just finishing up my prize check, I'll take a second to shout out my sponsor, Endgame TCG. They got some good sleeves. These yellow ones have become my favorites, although I think they might be currently sold out, maybe discontinued on the website. But they have some other cool colors. If you're looking for some good sleeves, go ahead, check out endgametcg.ca. There's a link down in the description below, and you can use my discount code for 10% off. But as I'm shouting out my sponsor here, you're witnessing one of the greatest Gardevoir turn ones of all time. This has got to be one of the worst feelings when you play against Gardevoir. They have a turn one like this, and you just know that they're about to have a crazy start. Tons of Psychic Energies in the discard pile. Although I will say, I don't know how valuable having this many Psychic Energies in the discard pile is against Dragapult. You're going to be getting item locked a lot, and I'm just not really sure it's worth it. Also there, I research away that Dark Energy, and I feel like in some situations, it could be correct to just hold on to that Dark Energy, get the attachment to the monkey, just accept that you're going to have a slower development. But here I did decide to research, just develop my hand, find another supporter for the next turn. But as I was saying, yeah, these Psychic Energy attachments can be really good as they can help you retreat Pokemon, they can help you use Frillish, they can help you get Psychic Energies on Monkey to Mind Bend even, or Psychic Energy on Clefairy. Because sometimes your Ralts do get wiped off the board, and when they do, it's really important to have a couple Psychic Energies in play. And so 3 in the discard already seems really good, but it's actually not as important as it is in some of the other matchups, such as Raging Bolt. Now here, my opponent does have a pretty good setup. He gets the Double Cloak turn 2 with the Neo Upper Energy, and he is threatening pretty reasonably, actually, to attack with Dragapult this turn. You could combo with a Boss and a Halucha. I think that would be kind of unreasonable to have Boss, Halucha, Dragapult, Phantom Dive on my Ralts. That's just kind of insane, but just a Pulp would be reasonable. Now, on my last turn there, I didn't do anything but announce Oceanic Gloom. My hand was really, really good. I think I had Candy, Guardy, Research, Iono, Vessel. You get the idea. If you didn't Iono me there, I was definitely candying a Guardy, probably getting another Dark Energy in play, maybe finding Mew Clefairy and getting that nasty Mew EX copy Phantom Dive play with the Clefairy down and essentially just winning the game. But my opponent does go for the Iono. I'm only going to be drawing 5 from that, which is kind of annoying. That one card is a big deal here. And I have a little bit of an interesting situation here. I end up... So my plan this turn originally is to just go ahead, Evo out some Kirlias, maybe use Monkey Dory to heal some damage off the Ralts. Maybe not. Or I could also just like evolve to Kirlia and then Evo into Guardy. But then I end up fezzing into Rare Candy, so I can Rare Candy a Gardevoir. But the thing is, I don't have a Nest Ball for Clefairy, and so I don't really have anything like, yeah, cool, I have this Gardevoir, but like, what attack am I actually using? I end up deciding on Screamtail to kill Dracloak, and I think this might have been a mistake. I think it actually might have been better for me to just Mind Bend this Dragapult, as when I kill this Dracloak, I give my opponent access to Countercatcher, which gives him a lot of very solid Phantom Dives, right? For example, he could bring up the Monkey, kill the Monkey in the Screamtail. He could bring up the Fez. He could hit the Fez for 200 and kill the Screamtail. That would be pretty annoying. I do still have access to my Air Balloon, so I could retreat the Fez, but that does sound like somewhat of a pain. So I think here, I Screamtail the Cloak, but it would have been better to just go for the Mind Bend, confuse him. Maybe he starts flipping tails. Maybe he ends up retreating. And then later on, I can get the Clefairy down, kill the Pult, and go from there. So we see one of the plays I was talking about, Countercatcher, just going to bring up that Monkey Dory, and we see a Phantom Dive. Not too much else from my opponent, no supporter card, so we get a little bit of a break here, as he's already down 2 3 prize cards. Now I do have the Nest Ball, either drew it off the prizes or top decked it. We're going to get the Clefairy down, and now this Dragapult is going to be hitting the bin, so maybe killing the Cloak there was the correct play after all, as now I get to take out the Pult. My opponent has no attackers left. He could potentially use Blood Moon at some point to get some prize cards, but he can't do that yet. And then we're just going to go ahead, move the damage onto the Pult, deny my opponent the ability to use Monkey Dory, and then we're just going to go ahead and take out that Pult. At this point, I think the game is pretty much over. I think there might be some shenanigans my opponent could go for here. For example, he could find Jamming Tower, and then he could kill the Ralts with Mind Bend. So Jamming Tower, Countercatcher Ralts, knockout. And then he's just one Blood Moon Boss's Orders play away from closing out the game on Clefairy or Fez. So maybe it actually isn't over at this point, but it is looking a little bit close. We do see the Countercatcher in my opponent's hand there, but I do not see a Jamming Tower. And if he doesn't take a prize card this turn, I'm not sure exactly what my play will be, but potentially just take a knockout on the Monkey Dory, go to 1 prize, and threaten to win the game on the following turn. So here we just see the Mind Bend, no Countercatcher, Jamming Tower play. I wonder maybe my opponent could have got down the Pheasantipity there, drawn some more cards, tried to find it, although I don't know if it was really a fantastic play. We see both my Countercatchers hitting the bin as I plan on just going down to 1 prize here. I get a second Gardevoir EX in play to make my board a little more stable. Now here, before I attack, I'm just thinking, how can I make my board as impervious as possible? I think I end up deciding to put down Mew EX, as Mew EX is a clean answer to Blood Moon, right? So here we could see Blood Moon take out the Pheasantipity, as my camera looks to be having some issues here with the focus. Okay, I need to take a look at this and hopefully make it better for the next video. Sorry for that, guys. I think it's on the autofocus setting instead of manual. But anyways, that doesn't really matter. Yeah, we get the Mew down. So even if my Fez goes down to a Blood Moon, the Mew EX can come in and win the game. But you see my opponent just doesn't have much of anything. But I think if you take a look at my board here, this is actually a really common Gardevoir board that comes up a lot is this like Fez, Mew, Clefairy, double Guardy board. That's just really hard for your opponent to disrupt, right? You can do this against Raging Bolt. You can do this against really any deck when you're winning the prize trade, right? Because the idea is you're winning the prize trade. You don't really care if your opponent takes a 2-prize knockout at that point. So you just want to make sure that you have access to as much draw power as possible on the final turn. As I was yapping, we get into our third round here where we're going to play a Gardevoir. And I think Ethan here is on the Jelly variant, if I remember correctly. My turn 1, I Ultra Ball away Dark Energy and a Curlia, get the Ralts down and pass. Now, I think this was potentially a mistake from my end, although I don't hate it. So I guess to explain, my hand here is actually completely dead, and I could have Ultra Balled for Mew to draw a card or two, but I decided not to. I knew Ethan was playing Guardy. There's 4 Ionos in the deck. I was hoping he would just randomly Iono me, and if he didn't, I was hoping that when I had Jellicent in hand, so if I just put Jellicent in the active on turn 2, maybe then he has to play an Iono, but he ends up having Research here, which is pretty annoying as it's going to let him develop his board while I'm just sitting here with not much going on. Now, that being said, he doesn't have a Curlia, he doesn't have a Jellicent of his own, and then I just go ahead and top deck Iono on the following turn, which is a very big break for me. That being said, I think also just like a Psychic Energy puts in a lot of work here. My Jellicent could just start attacking, which we do see off the Iono. Of course, it is even better to Iono, draw 6 cards, also draw the energy, and now we're just applying a lot of pressure as Ethan is kind of just dead drawing under this item lock. He's going to go ahead and get down the Frillish, and I think at some point here we realize that this air balloon potentially came down, and maybe the charm came down too under the Jellicent lock. Oh, I should have been paying attention as I was reviewing. I'm not sure it really mattered too much either way here, as we're just going to go ahead, continue developing our Jellicent, get a Dark Energy down onto the Monkey Dory. This way, if we're hit by a Mind Bend or a Frillish attack, we can just continue to heal the Jellicent. Now, I do go for the Iono here, even though Ethan's hand is pretty obviously dead. There's just so many more cards that help me here. I want to find a Gardevoir. If I find a Gardevoir, I can Psychic Embrace an Energy, move 30 with my Monkey, and then knock out Ethan's Monkey, which just puts a lot of pressure on him to do something, find a Curlia, find a Gardevoir. But I end up just deciding to move the 20 onto the Frillish and then punch in for 80, and hopefully we'll take out that Monkey Dory next turn with an Adrenabrain or maybe just another attack with the Jellicent. I really just want to pressure the Frillish because I think Ethan's biggest way back into this game is to randomly get a Jellicent in the active, and then once Jellicent's online, he can start whittling away at my Jellicent with his, although that might be kind of an unrealistic scenario. And I think I end up researching here into a completely busted hand that allows me to double Monkey. Yeah, we're a double Monkey, take out the Frillish, and then we're going to take out the active with Jellicent. At this point, I think you guys probably realize that this game is just going to be a Jellicent beatdown, as these Gardevoir mirrors quite often are. If a player gets out Jellicent really early on in the game and the other player doesn't have a Gardevoir, the games quite often do look like this. No Fluttermane in Ethan's deck, no Iron Bundle. That's another card I've actually been thinking of including in this Jelly Guardy deck. It's just an Iron Bundle so that in the Jelly Guardy mirror, you can push the Jellicent to the bench, get your item cards, get your tool cards, because honestly, Fluttermane is just kind of mid. Having Fluttermane in play with 3 energies on it most of the time, just not super great. So I think I'd rather play an Iron Bundle than the Fluttermane, unless you're really leaning into the Flutter Devo lines, which I can't say I know a whole lot about. Anyways, here we also saw my Jellicent get confused. When your Jellicent gets confused in a situation like that, you just flip for it. Even if I flipped tails there, it wouldn't really matter. Ethan would just draw 1 more card, then I would flip again and again and again, and eventually I find heads, and just every time I flip tails, he gets 1 more card to find Curlia, which is not super significant. Lots of cards in the deck, not a lot of Curlias. So, and then at the end there, I'm just going to go ahead and close it out with the Miracle Force, and we get a pretty one-sided game. But our 4th round is much more interesting. We're going to face off against Raging Bolt, which is a pretty strong matchup, but we're going to need to get our setup going if we want to win the game. This Baby Bolt does put on a lot of pressure. It's going to be taking out Ralts, taking out Curlias. With the addition of the new set, the Curlias do have 100 HP, so they won't be dying to the Baby Bolt anymore, which is a pretty big deal, I will say. But for this game, we do have 90 HP Curlias, and they will be under a lot of pressure as this Baby Bolt goes ahead and takes out my Ralts. But lucky for me, I do just have the immediate rare candy Gardevoir. That's going to be very nice. This Gardevoir is going to be very safe especially as my goal this turn is to just get Jellicent EX in play and knock out this Baby Bolt with Jellicent, potentially play an Iono. Now, here, I end up Ionoing into a really good set of cards, and I have the opportunity to use Gardevoir EX to kill Teal Mask and go for some kind of 2/2/2 prize map. But I felt like it was a little greedy. I wasn't really ready for my Gardevoir to potentially be knocked out. I think I could have maybe killed the Teal Mask with Clefairy as well. But even if I kill the Teal Mask with Clefairy, I'm still risking like a Prime Catcher knockout on my Guardy. Well, I guess in that situation, I would still have the Clefairy though. So maybe I didn't have access to the Clefairy because I think I see an Ultra Ball. I don't know. Here, I ended up deciding to just go ahead and kill the active Baby Bolt with Jellicent. This could have been a misplay. I maybe should have just tried to pressure a 2/2/2 prize map, but I felt like if I went for the 2/2/2, like knocking out all the X Pokemon play, I could get caught with like an underdeveloped board and just be unable to really keep the knockouts going. Whereas here, I felt like even if my opponent had like a random knockout on the Jellicent, I could just kill the Bolt and then eventually generate enough Monkey Dories to take a free knockout on the Fanrotom. Now, I will say typically I don't really value Monkey Dories a lot in this matchup, but there are some situations where your only way to win the prize map is to get like 3 Monkey hits onto the Fanrotom. So I was definitely considering that here, as I almost hit the double item off of Arvin. As you guys can see, those mistakes do happen. So when you see players grabbing 2 items or 2 tools or whatever on stream, try not to be too hard on them. It was probably just an accident. But here we do end up getting the right combination of items and tools. And we're just going to go ahead and take out the Fanrotom with the Jellicent. I think at this point, this turn is when I knew I was going to win the game. At this point, I'm up in the 2/2/2 prize exchange. Even if my opponent takes 2 prizes every turn for the rest of the game, as long as I do the same, he won't be able to beat me. And I just have a lot of draw power. I've got the Fez on the board. The Jellicent is also blocking the items. And so here, I'm pretty content to just chill, wait and see what my opponent does. I don't even know if I play a single card here. And we see another energy come onto the Jellicent, and then that's just going to take out the Fanrotom here, as this Jellicent kind of just takes over the game here. My opponent unable to put together the knockouts, and I think this is the power of this Gardevoir deck, and also why I love Pult Dusk so much. This early game item lock really limits a lot of decks in a lot of situations. You definitely get some free wins, which is especially nice in a 9-round regional where, you know, where the time rules are very difficult to finish 3 games in. And so getting some of these games where you just kind of scam your opponent with item lock really helps finish best of 3 series and keep your mental state from fatiguing too much, as I'm just sitting here with the Jellicent smacking in, and my opponent, Muhammad, is unable to get a knockout again. I think he's 1 energy short. He's got 4, but he has to retreat the Teal Mask here. So he was going to go for the Prime Catcher there. I let him know he can't do that, so he's just reevaluating his turn here. But I think on the next turn, I don't even know what my best play on the next turn is. Probably just taking a knockout. I think I might retreat into the Gardevoir, take the knockout, go down to 1 prize, and just be content with that. Or now that the Noctowl is in the active, I think I can just kill this Noctowl with the Jellicent. I end up deciding to put down the Mew. That guarantees me an attacker that can knock out the Raging Bolt, right? So my opponent, if he were to just knock out my active, I would get Mew. Well, Mew just knocks out the Bolt. So he has to kill the Mew. And then if he kills the Mew, I have Nest Ball for Clefairy. I have access to Pheasantipede. So even here, he's just really checkmated here. And that's going to wrap up this 4th round. We're going to be 4-0. And now we're going to run into our good buddy Tony, who's also playing Gardevoir once again. However, Tony isn't actually on the Jelly build. He's playing a Fluttermane build. I think this is similar to the Riley McKay Quadruple Monkey Fluttermane. There might be an E-switch in the deck. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's Double Charm as well. But that's the kind of build Tony's going for here. And as we're both doing our opening prize checks here at the same time, this is something I do quite often at regionals. If you go first, you play your Nest Ball, you get all your Pokemon, right? So you see Tony's Ralts is on the board there, and then you tell your opponent, all right, I'm done my turn. I'm just going to keep prize checking. If you want, you can start your turn, and we can just play at the same time. I've never had a judge tell me I can't do this, nor have I ever had them tell me I can. So hopefully this is within the rules of the game, but I definitely do this quite often. And as you see here, I just started off with the Arven. We both do our prize check at the same time, and that probably saves 1 or 2 minutes off the clock in a regional setting, right? Because then it's 2 minutes as we're both searching instead of 4 minutes as we both search independently. Now here, I have a really bad turn one for several reasons. One, I prize 2 of my Ralts, and 2, I prize my secret box. So off this Arven, I can only get 1 Nest Ball, and I can only get 1 Pokemon in play. And I end up going for the Jelly. I think this was just bad. I kind of tunnel visioned on how good the Jellicent was earlier on today against Ethan. But here, when I've prized double Ralt, I think I really need to be just evoing into Curlia and then going for a turn 2 Guardy. Because what's going to happen now is now I'm going to get my only Ralts in play, but my Ralt is just going to be very vulnerable to Screamtail, also Fluttermane sniping, and this Ralt is just basically never going to make it into a Gardevoir at this point. I think I also, that's like so terrible. I could have potentially like tried to power up Fett. No, I'm not even going to entertain that. I think the idea here now is that with the Jelly, if Screamtail takes out the Ralts, Jelly can take out the Screamtail, and then I can re-bench the Ralts. And then potentially get up into a Gardevoir. But I think Tony actually makes a really smart move here. Instead of using Screamtail to kill my Ralt, just applying a lot of pressure to this Jellicent. This Jellicent is kind of the focal point of my plan in this matchup. So by putting 250 damage on it, he's going to get to knock it out for free next turn. And really my only chance here is to candy a Gardevoir right now, or else on the next turn, I'm losing my Jellicent, then I'm also losing my Curlia, and then I'm just losing the game as Screamtail is going to completely harass my board. Now here, Tony actually goes for a pretty interesting play here. He ends up using Fluttermane and Boss to take out the Curlia and the Jellicent. I'm not sure. I think I would have preferred to have seen just Screamtail kill the Curlia and Screamtail kill the Curlia and Monkey kill the Jelly. That might have been worse because you might end up with like more energies. Well, I mean, this leaves 3 energies stranded on the Fluttermane, so I don't think I love this. Yeah, we're just gonna go ahead, Countercatcher up the Guardy. There is 1 Psychic on there, but there's no Psychic in Tony's discard. So if he draws absolutely nothing off this Iono, we can make a comeback. I don't even find a Ralts here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and Oceanic Gloom. And he has a Research and a Psychic Energy. And I think pretty shortly here, I'm just gonna pack up the game. No Ralts in sight. There's the scoop. There's both the Ralts and the box in the prize cards. And we're going to take a loss here to Tony. Going to be 4-1 going into our last round, where I think we actually have my favorite game of the video, the game I personally learned the most from, and I think you guys are going to learn the most from as well. So thank you guys for sticking around, watching the whole video. As a reward, you're going to see the best game here, which is going to be up against Jason, who's playing Joltik Goldengo. Now, this game starts off in a pretty standard manner here. We're going to see both of us doing the double prize check as well here that I was doing in the previous game with Tony, I think it was. But on my turn 1 here, I get down the Ralts, get the Psychic Energy on the Frillish, and then I just pass it off to Jason, who's going to get down the standard Goldengo board. We see the Joltik start, very nice for him. The Gimme Ghouls come down, the Iron Hands is on the board, and we're going to see that Jolting charge. Now, I do like this Frillish start for the main reason that I think one of the best draws you can have as the Guardian player going first is just on turn 2, make a Jellicent and knock out the Joltik with the Jellicent, force the opponent to have a boss's orders if they want to take 2 prizes with Amp You Very Much, right? We're forcing boss's orders, we're blocking Pokegear, we're blocking Prime Catcher, which means we're also blocking Arven for Prime Catcher. That's a lot of connections to a gusting effect that you're shutting down by having a Jellicent here. And from what I remember, I think I do find the Jellicent here. I think when I'm debating, I have a Ralt and a Frillish in my hand. And quite often in this, against any Iron Hands deck, you don't want to put down too many squishy Pokemon that die to Iron Hands when you don't need them. And so I'm thinking here, do I really need this backup Ralts? Do I really need this backup Frillish? And it looks like I actually whiff the Jellicent. And so that's why I end up benching the backup Frillish, because if my active Frillish goes down, I want to be able to make the Jellicent block Prime Catcher. Same logic on the Curlia, although I think I could have got away without the Ralts here, because if Curlia goes down, I can just make the Frillish into Jelly, bench another Ralts, and just attack with Jelly for 80, and I think that's a completely acceptable turn. And now, of course, this turn, we top deck the Jellicent after whiffing it last turn, so that's always nice when the card you needed on the previous turn is on the top of your deck, and then you top deck it. So, but anyways, here we're just going to go for the Iono. We draw into the secret box, and we're going to go ahead and Ultra Ball down that Guardy. I think if I didn't put down that Ralts last turn, Jason probably would have bossed up the Curlia and amped it. And so it's kind of nice that we did that. So now we get the Guardy here. We're going to get the Jelly attack off. Although if he amped the Curlia, I would just have the energies on the Jelly. And so I think I would just be in a very similar position either way. I don't know, guys. Let me know. What do you think about benching that extra Ralts, that extra Frillish? Should I have benched both of them, neither of them? What would you have done there? I think that was actually a pretty interesting decision point that I'm going to have to think about after I finish recording this video. Definitely could get away without benching that second Ralts there, I think. And potentially not this. I think I like benching the second Frillish. I think I either like benching both of them or neither of them, because if I bench neither and then the Frillish gets amped, I just don't really have a good attacking option. I guess Gardevoir. I don't know. Anyways, let's move on. Analyze the rest of the game here. Don't want to get too caught up in one decision. We're going to see a pretty solid turn from Jason. Some Goldengos coming onto the board without putting that Genesect down. That's going to be nice for him. Saving that bench space for, a Pheasantipede, Latias, maybe later on, a Mew EX, something like that to draw him cards. But he's not going to find the boss's orders here, which is a very big deal, and part of why this Jellicent is so strong in the matchup. And I think from here, we do get an opportunity to take over the prize card exchange, take over the prize trade. One thing I should note here is that I've prized my Screamtail, and I think my best play here would just be to Screamtail, take out the Goldengo, and that plays into kind of the main line that I'm going for in this matchup, which is Screamtail, one-shot a Dengo, or anything. Screamtail one-shot a 2-prizer that isn't Iron Hands. And then we're going to look to take a 4-prize turn by amping the Iron Hands with Mew EX, and then using Monkey Dory to take out the Joltik. And now here, I've prized the Screamtail. And so I decide to just take out the Iron Hands and the Joltik now, right? We do the Mew, we do the 4-prize turn first, right? And that's fine, but it can definitely open you up to some awkward interactions, which we're definitely going to get into here as I go retreat the Jellicent into the Mew, Joltik, the whole play I just described. Take 4 prizes here, amp the Iron Hands, and we're going to go down to 2 with the plan that our final 2 prizes are either coming from Screamtail off the prizes, and then I can Screamtail Goldengo for game, or potentially triple Monkey Guardy kill a Goldengo. That's another feasible way for me to get my last 2 prizes. Those are really the 2 main plays I'm looking for here. But to talk about some of the kind of awkward situations you can run into here, they all really stem from these energies getting trapped on Mew EX, right? So a few things Jason can do here. One, he could just Prime Catcher up my Gardevoir, bomb it with Goldengo, force me to candy out another Gardevoir, and get another Monkey and another Dark if I want to take the knockout. Then I also have a bunch of energy stuck on my Mew, so I need to get more Psychic Energy in the discard. That would also prevent any kind of Screamtail charm play because I only have access to 4 Psychics. So pretty much any play that involves not killing this Mew is just a major pain for me. Another play, which I didn't actually think about until Jason does it here, but he's just going to go ahead and attack with Blood Moon with a Bravery Charm, which has 310 HP. And I was thinking if he attacked with Blood Moon, I could just kill it with Mew, but I actually can't kill it with Mew because with the Bravery Charm it has too much HP. And luckily he does take out the Mew, which if I had the Screamtail here, I could just load up a bunch of energies, Screamtail the Dengo, but I don't have access to the Screamtail. And another piece of this is because I've taken so many prize cards, I don't have access to Counter Catcher. And so I'm actually left in a spot where I've got, 10, 15 cards in hand, something ridiculous, and I just can't win the game. And so now I have to go for some kind of Iono play, even though I should have been winning the prize trade. But because I don't have access to Counter Catcher, I don't have access to the Screamtail, I'm kind of put in an awkward spot. So at this point, I'm kind of taking a second because I'm honestly kind of baffled. I thought I was just going to be able to close out the game on the last turn here with the triple Monkey play, but what we're going to end up doing here is going for some kind of Iono play, which I'm trying to piece together. So we're going to Iono Jason, and then how do we make it as unlikely as possible for him to get a return knockout while being able to win on the next turn? So, for example, something I considered here was just retreating to the Jellicent, putting 90 on the Blood Moon, and then just passing, right? And then we're denying Pheasantipity. We're leaving the Blood Moon stranded in the active, and that's pretty good. But the problem with that is if I triple monkey the active Blood Moon and then just pass, Jason could just retreat out into a one prizer, like Latias, go into a one prizer, pass off the turn, and then next turn just win the game with a big Goldengo attack or potentially a Blood Moon attack into the Jellicent, although I think I would heal off enough damage. I think that might have also been a mistake that turn. Maybe instead of attacking with the Jellicent, because here I also make it easier for Goldengo to take out the Jellicent, right? And so maybe what I should have done is just retreat into the Jellicent, heal 90, move it all onto the Blood Moon and pass. Although then Jason can just go Latias into the one prizer, pass, and then it kind of gets awkward for me because again, I can't win the game. And so I went for this line. It does make it a little easier for Jason to win the game here with a Goldengo attack. However, it does ensure that if Jason misses this turn, I will be able to close out the game next turn, which I thought was valuable. I didn't want to end up in a situation where the game gets dragged out even more. Jason's just drawing more and more cards every turn with Goldengo. If I had to kill the one prizer, he could Fez again, which sounds awful. So as I talk it out, I think I liked the way I played it. Let me know if you guys see a better way for me to ensure I can win the game on the next turn and also make it less likely for Jason to be able to win by killing my Jellicent. But anyways, that's going to wrap up today's video. I definitely feel like I learned a lot from playing this league challenge with Gardevoir. We close out the 5-1, which I think I was good for third place at this league challenge. Probably going to be wanting to replace that with a first at some point, but who knows? The 10 points might play in my final CP count. I'm not entirely sure. And that's going to be all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. As always, if you enjoyed the video, I mean, if you watched it all this way, you certainly enjoyed it. So leave a comment, like the video, hit the subscribe button. Helps my channel grow and helps me continue making these videos. And I'll see you guys in the next one.